Only we, the people, can make America great again. That is the idea we're going to explore today. Welcome back to Liberty's Hill, where we explore how can we create a world of human flourishing with liberty, justice, dignity, and prosperity. I'm Dr. Bill Brannan, a pastor at Life Springs Church in Liberty Hill, Texas. When I talk with people, especially young people, they often express their demoralization about the future, specifically with regard to how systematically broken our political and legal system is, with politicians serving special interests. They feel that it is the way things are done, and regardless of who we put in the White House, the system will not change. The truth is, we can change it, but the change is going to come from a grassroots movement among American citizens. Politicians are simply responding to incentives that we create in order for them to get elected. And what we need to do is change the incentives that they are responding to. It is not going to change overnight, but we can create a movement that will change our government to serve citizens and create a better world. I believe there are simple and practical steps that we can take to accomplish this. The first step is the easiest to sell, and that would be to encourage every American citizen to study Thomas Sowell's Basic Economics. We could elect school boards that would require every student to take the class and set learning objectives that would tie it into a vision of incentivizing government to work for the interest of citizens in a way that would drastically raise the standard of living. Americans are by nature generous and care about people. The problem is that we often are ignorant of economic principles, so that instead of actually helping people, we support policies that harm people. We adopt them because we have been deceived by rhetoric promoting detrimental policies presented in a way that plays on our sincere desire to help people. Economics is not based on opinions, but upon data gathered for centuries throughout the world. Once we understand economic principles, we see through the deceitful rhetoric and can hold politicians accountable to policies that raise the standard of living of citizens. For example, rent controls and price controls on groceries has always had a negative impact, but it sounds like the right answer to help people when we are ignorant of the data of their effects historically for centuries around the world. The same thing is true with tariffs. They reduce competition and increase costs to citizens and reduce the standard of living. They sound like the correct solution to bring jobs back to a nation, but they aren't. The free market combined with rule of law and morality is. Economics has data showing the impact of rule of law and of corruption on the wealth of nations. But today we're only looking at some basic economic principles. I recently saw a social media post where Charlie Kirk was talking with a libertarian student who expressed his concern with proposed tariff policies and that they pass the cost to the public. Charlie is a great debater, and 99% of the time I agree with his position. This time he was simply wrong, but the student didn't have the rhetorical skills to hold his own in the debate. Charlie argued that pickup trucks are cheaper in America than in Europe because we have a 25% tariff on imported pickup trucks, and that incentivizes companies to build plants in America and reduces the cost. While I do not have the data on why pickup trucks are more expensive in Europe, by simply understanding economic principles, I absolutely know that Charlie is wrong about tariffs. If someone could produce the same quality pickup truck outside of America and sell them cheaper in the U.S., even with the cost of shipping, it would reduce the cost to Americans, and that reduction of cost would benefit the U.S. economy and raise our standard of living. What is easy to see is the effect on the auto industry in the U.S., but not all of the effects on the economy of cheaper priced pickup trucks are easy to see. Economic analysis shows that eliminating tariffs would be more beneficial and would ensure the lowest cost in America, and that would have a positive net effect on our standard of living. When the American steel industry lost about 50% of its revenues and we responded with tariffs to rescue the American steel industry, the net effect was a loss of about 3 times the profit and 5 times the jobs than was saved. This principle has been demonstrated for centuries around the world. On what grounds should we want to incentivize Toyota to build factories and create jobs in America? Because of a free market and a stable economy with rule of law. Investment always seeks a positive return, and they would see that the major market for pickups is in the U.S., and by manufacturing in the U.S., they could increase their profits and their production to meet worldwide demand. If we want to increase manufacturing in the US, what we need to do is create the conditions internally that promote investment rather than trying to coerce it externally. A better solution would be to cut the corporate tax rate and eliminate unnecessary regulations that are detrimental to economic growth. What is even more important is the free markets and the rule of law to ensure that resources are naturally allocated where they have the most positive impact to the standard of living and leads to the greatest human flourishing. Those policies can only be enacted when the voting public understands economic principles so that politicians must enact them to get elected. One way to see the incredible impact of a free market is to look at India. In response to a famine in one region, the government imposed price controls which led to widespread starvation and death. Later, under British rule, the British government published weekly the prices of food in different locations, resulting in the free market bringing the food to where it was needed. This was possible because the British colonial government was not subject to local opinion and could implement policies that raised the standard of living and kept people from starving. These policies were enacted because Britain understood the power of free markets. Britain's economy was originally transformed through the textile industry. One of the major reasons for this was embracing technology that mechanized fulling textiles. The fulling process had been the most expensive and labor-consuming element in textile manufacturing, significantly increasing its cost to the consumer. Because so many people were employed as fullers, they would be a major voting constituency resisting the adoption of automated fulling. Because Britain embraced the technology, while there was a major loss of jobs and income among fullers, the net result was to transform Britain into a world power while it increased the wealth of the nation, resulting in greater wealth and ultimately to more jobs. That is the way economics works. Without an understanding of what the net effect will be upon the economy and the standard of living, voting constituencies force politicians to enact policies that harm more people than they help. The only way to begin to understand all the ways that bad policies promoted through deceitful rhetoric are hurting people is to study economics. It will surprise you and empower you. We can create a better world, increase human flourishing, and make the American government work for the American people, but only if we take responsibility and educate ourselves on the principles necessary to achieve it. That is my challenge to you today, to educate yourself and become part of a grassroots movement to create a better world. You can begin by reading Thomas Sowell's Basic Economics and begin talking with people about what you learn and how it can create a better world. Please let me know what you think in the comments below, and please subscribe to my channel.